the constitution of the ADF, the provisions that, for instance, prohibits the ADF from being able to go to the capital markets of the world. I'm sure I still don't quite understand why that should be the case, especially since that's where the money is. You hear of the figures about monies that are, if you like, in private hands as against those in public resources, and the difference is stark and dramatic. So if it is that we can't get at where the money is, it becomes very difficult to see how they can fulfill their primary function. But I believe these are some of the matters that are on the table here, and we should be looking at and trying to find solutions. Fortunately for the bank, it has a lot of support from various parts of the world. I think they're called regionals, who are part of the governance structure of the bank. So the discussion is a discussion that can find, if you like, even solutions within the bank itself. Is making sure that our farmers get their due for their labor. Historically, that has not been the case. And I think that the initiatives that President Ouattara and I have jointly fashioned, the living income differential, which is guarantee a certain minimum level of income to our farmers, is a very important step towards that. And the second, of course, is the matter that you have raised. How come an industry that is supposed to generate, on the average, over $100 billion worth of resources, only $6 to $7 billion of it comes to the two countries that are responsible for 2/3, nearly 70% of the world's output of cocoa? So, and the reason is very simple. All the value is created outside Cote d'Ivoire, is created outside Ghana. And how we can then now develop in such a way that we have entities in our countries which can address this deficiency and produce our chocolate. We've set certain limits for the cocoa marketing, for Cocoa Board, whereby I believe it's over a 3-year period. We want to have 50% of the output of our farmers being processed domestically. And I think these are the measures that we're required to take. But it is a major issue confronting the industry and confronting government, and we have to find a solution. Because the present situation is not tenable. That 10% of the value created from cocoa is returned to the farmers and to the producers, and the others go to all the people in the various middle levels of value addition. That is not a viable long-term arrangement for the industry. So the question you've asked, I think, is an extremely important one, and it is one that our government is exceptionally sensitive to. And hopefully some of the measures that we have put on the table would enable us to achieve a much better result in the years ahead.
Thank you very much, President Akufo-Addo. Next to the Right Honorable Dr. Edward Ngirente, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda. Now, prior to COVID-19, your country had an astonishing growth rate of 9.4%, astounding numbers. Since 2020, however, Rwanda's economic growth, like the rest of the world, has taken a hit. What policies and instruments has Rwanda put in place to kickstart its economy and help people and businesses?
Thank you so much, moderator. And before we start the conversation, the moderator told me that this conversation is free, and he asked me to speak from my heart. He told me that was going to be an informal conversation, and I want to start by something you didn't ask me. But I know it's an ongoing discussion about the ADF replenishment and being given a chance to borrow from the market. And I want to say that we support that idea of borrowing from the market. for EDF as member countries. And for me and for us, we think that's giving a chance to those countries to implement different reforms. So I'm sure we think that I'm responding to a non-asked question, but it's because I know this is being discussed across the globe, and I want to start by saying that we support that as a country members, and we think that is giving those low-income countries and fragile countries to implement different reforms, because that money goes with some condition which helps those countries to improve their systems. So now you are asking me to share with our colleagues here our Rwandan experience in overcoming, the COVID pandemic consequences and how we are trying to sustain our growth. As you know, before COVID, our economic growth was around 9.5%. Of course, with COVID, everything went down. But I can tell you and share with you our experience that even during COVID, of course, we have different lockdowns and then stopping activities. But in some rural areas, we decided to say, if the cities are not working properly because of COVID, but some remote areas, there were no many cases of COVID, so we decided to go there and start, investing there. And this is why we were able to build, in that period of the first 9 months of COVID, we were able to build 22,000 classrooms because we wanted money to be circulating over there and to support that education sector. And that's because we believe in human capital development. But in addition to that, our recovery process was driven by a program we put in place, which is called, of course, the recovery program, composed of 3 or 4 key elements I'm going to mention. One is the recovery fund, which is kind of an amount of money we put in place to help those most hit sectors, which include hospitality, hotels, and other economic activities. That was the first phase of the recovery fund. And now, last week, I've launched a second phase of recovery fund, which is going to be really helping different sectors, from the big activity to those small businesses. The second one I can mention is that with COVID, you have learned something very important. You have learned that there are some products you don't produce locally in Rwanda, where you have that capacity to do so. And we have called them must-have products. And what we have done, we have listed them, and we have put in place a list of incentives to tell people, if you come and want to invest in this subsector, you have this list of incentives, but you have also a time frame. Those activities have to be done within 2 years, not more than 2 years since the adoption. And that's a program we call Manufacture and Ability to Recover. And it gives people incentive from tax incentive and non-tax incentives. And so far, we have registered more than 90 projects in the manufacturing sector. And that's going to help. And that's going to help to create jobs. And our plan and our projection is that that program is going to create more than 30,000 jobs in Rwanda. The third element is the subsidy we have given to the support to agriculture sector. As you know, we have been trying to attract young people, youth in agriculture sector, but to be able to make it an attractive sector, you have to show people that that sector is profitable. And what we have done is to make sure that there is financing in that sector, and we're trying to put in place a project which will lower the interest rate to a single-digit interest rate. And that project is there, and at least people can know that if you go to invest in agriculture, you will have at least funding at lower cost. The second support to agriculture was the seed production. We have given ourselves a target that by end of 2021, Rwanda won't import again the seeds. Now we have achieved that program, and we produce all agricultural seed locally in Rwanda, and that has helped us to lower the cost of production, because we used to import every season. We used to spend more than 8 billion Rwandan francs by importing seeds. The fourth one, agricultural support, is we have seen that with this global crisis, we used to import fertilizers like other African countries. And we have decided to put in place now a plant to produce our fertilizers locally, because that is an input we need in agriculture. The plant will be complete, I think, from now 1 year. We'll have that plant producing fertilizers in Rwanda. The fourth element, which is an issue in the whole in the African continent, is post-harvest handling. You know, we have that number, which is really alarming, that on every production, Africa will lose 40% of our production is lost during the post-harvest management. And in Rwanda, we are trying to invest heavily in the post-harvest management process to make sure that the whole value chain is well managed. I think those are the things I can mention so far about our recovery process. And I know we're lagging behind the time. I don't have time to give you the whole but,
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Ingirente. We're going to come next to President Samia Hassan, who is the first woman Vice President of Tanzania, the first woman President also of Tanzania, and you're very well familiar with challenges, having come to office as President during a time of national crisis. In the process of taking office, you've become an inspiration to women, not just in Africa, but all over the world. For the lack of a better word, you've attained rather a rock star status. At least that's my humble submission. And you're doing a phenomenal job in Tanzania. Since taking office, what would you consider to be the major challenges that you've had to overcome, and what solutions are you bringing to the table?
It's a difficult question, though. But the major challenges when I came in the office, the first one, as you said rightly, that I was the first female in East Africa to be the president, and Tanzania particularly. So the first challenge was a trust, to make people of Tanzania have a trust on me that I can deliver, I can run the country the same way men did. So that was my major challenge, and so I had to prove to them that yes, I can do it, women can do it. Women can never fail. And I think within the course of 1 year, I've shown the women power that I led the country in the same way men did, and in some circumstances more than they did. So, but then the second challenge was I came in the office when the whole world was grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, the economic situation worldwide wasn't good. In my country, the economy fell from 6.8 growth to 4%. So I had a challenging task of improving the economy. And as we are speaking, we have been able to grow to 5.2% this year. So my expectation is to go back to 6.87 by 2025. And the third was, as the economy went down, then my question in head was, where should I start? But then I'm very thankful to the multilateral organization, to the banks, specifically African Development Bank. They supported Tanzania heavily. They supported us in infrastructure development. Tanzania is well connected to the neighboring countries. The regions and districts of Tanzania are well connected by beautiful roads. But then they are supporting us on construction of the airports and aviation sector. They've been supporting us in agriculture. So with the support from FDB and other multilateral organizations, I've done well. Actually, due to COVID-19, IMF gave us some money as a bailout, economic bailout from the COVID-19 pandemic. And then I think most of the countries used that money for purchasing of sanitizer and those items required for COVID-19. But for me, I thought COVID-19 means the decongestion of the students in the classroom. Our classrooms had 100 to 120 pupils in one classroom. So I've been able to decongest them, and now I'm having 45 to 50 in one classroom. But then I thought COVID means availability of water. So I've taken that money and used them for supplying clean and safe water to most part of my country. And when I came in, the availability of water was about 72%, and I've moved to around close to 80%. And I'm expecting by 2025 I'll be 95 in urban areas and 85 in villages. So, but then I've also used that money for health, because COVID means starting treating people at the level of villages. So I've constructed about 350 health centers using that money, plus equipments, modern equipments, to the district and village levels. So I've done something which has never been done before. But my thanks to the African Development Bank, and I congratulate them for turning 50. And they say voices and stories. The voices have to be raised, I think, and stories to be told. So I'm telling the story about FDB, but then telling the stories and raising our voices wouldn't be enough. We have to raise our voice, asking the multilateral financiers to allow FDB to access to SDRs, because those are going to benefit Africa. We'll be close to get fund from our own bank for our own development. But then I was thinking that most global programs and plans should go in line with what we Africans are planning. And so through our own banks, funds have to be given to our own banks so that we can benefit from that. Yeah, thank you very much.
President Samia Suluhu Hassan, thank you very, very much. Creativity, innovation on display. We do have a panelist who has joined us virtually all the way from the Comoros. I'm trusting that we will not have a technical hitch and that we'll be able to go directly to the Comoros even as we speak. So we will go right now to His Excellency Azali Assoumani, the President of the Union of the Comoros. Are you with us, sir?
Tout à fait, je suis là avec vous. Et merci de m'avoir donné la parole. Et mon cher frère,
if you could just hold on a second, Your Excellency. I'm glad that you can. I'm glad that you're with us online. I'm just going to provide you with a question that kind of contextualizes things for you. You are the president of a small island nation that has faced tremendous challenges, particularly with regards to climate. My question to you, Your Excellency, is, are the resources that your country receives sufficient enough to handle your growing needs in infrastructure and across the board? How are you faring post-COVID?
Écoutez, merci beaucoup, mais permettez-moi de remercier mon frère président du Ghana pour avoir accepté d'abriter cette conférence et toutes les dispositions qu'il a prises pour sa belle réussite. Aussi, féliciter ma chère sœur Samia, encore ma voisine, aussi le président Philippe de Mozambique, qui est un voisin, d'être là avec nous. Et vous dire qu'effectivement, par rapport à la question que vous avez posée, c'est une question très importante, puisque d'une façon spécifique, les Comores font partie des petits États insulaires au développement, donc affrontés au problème climatique. Et le problème climatique est un problème international. On vit actuellement, aucun continent du monde n'est épargné par ce problème. Donc ça, c'est les catastrophes naturelles. Et c'est ajouter une catastrophe humaine, ce qui se passe en Ukraine. Donc c'est des éléments qu'on doit en tenir compte pour voir comment prévenir et comment trouver des solutions. De ce côté-là, effectivement, je me joins à tout le monde pour féliciter mon cher frère Adesina avec tous les efforts qu'il fait au profit de l'Afrique, particulièrement les Comores, parce que quand même, moi-même avec lui, on a un très bon partenariat, donc je dois le remercier et lui dire toute notre sympathie, la solidarité du gouvernement de moi-même à l'appuyer pour qu'il atteigne ses objectifs. Aussi lui féliciter des notes qu'il a sur le plan mondial par rapport à sa gestion. Ça prouve qu'il fait une très bonne gestion. Et la gestion qu'il fait de la BAD, effectivement, c'est au profit de l'Afrique. Et c'est pourquoi, effectivement, nous devons tous voir les voies et moyens de faire un lobbying au niveau de tous les partenaires bio-multilatéraux, comment ils peuvent financer la FAD, mettre à la disposition de l'argent à la BAD pour qu'ils puissent, la question que vous avez posée spécifiquement, qu'on puisse trouver les moyens d'y apporter des solutions. Donc, en ce qui concerne le climat, effectivement, ça a été dit, l'Afrique, on est victime, puisqu'il y en a qui affectent le climat et c'est nous qui subissons les conséquences. Mais néanmoins, on n'a pas le choix, on doit gérer. Et c'est pourquoi cette problématique d'énergie renouvelable, on doit y prendre en compte. Et ici, au Comores, Dieu merci, nous avons de très bonnes potentialités, que ce soit en géothermie, que ce soit en solaire, que ce soit en photovoltaïque. Donc, de ce côté-là, il y a des projets qui sont en cours qui peuvent nous aider à avoir l'énergie pour essayer d'amoindrir un peu les effets de ce problème climatique. Donc, ce côté-là, je remercie les partenaires multilatéraux pour l'application du point. Par rapport à la question spécifique du Covid. Donc, le Covid est venu en 2019, pendant que les Comores, nous avons lancé un programme qu'on appelle le Plan émergent des Comores 2030. On a fait une conférence à Paris et ceux qu'on a invités, Dieu merci, ils ont fait de très belles annonces. Mais avec Covid, on a été un peu plombé. Donc maintenant, on a géré Covid. Et je remercie le peuple comorien, tous nos partenaires, parce que quand même, ils ont été à nos côtés, on l'a bien géré. Et maintenant, on est dans une très bonne situation. Donc, avant le Covid, nous avions une croissance qui a été prévue de 4,5% et il est tombé à 0,2%. Et maintenant, on doit relever. En tout cas, on est dans la voie pour essayer de relever ce défi. Et jusqu'alors, le Covid, il est maîtrisé. Donc, on va aller à ce plan émergent. Donc, nous avons une obligation. C'est l'autosuffisance alimentaire pour essayer de pallier aux catastrophes naturelles. Quand on prend des pays voisins comme Madagascar, comme Tanzanie, qui produisent une autosuffisance alimentaire, mais le problème, c'est qu'il faut les aider sur le stockage et la transformation. De façon à ce que si on vit ces catastrophes naturelles, que personne ne peut dire quand et comment, et qu'on essaie de prévenir la pénurie. Voilà le problème que nous avons. Donc les Comores, malgré la petitesse du territoire, mais nous, on a un climat qui peut nous apporter à avoir une autosuffisance alimentaire, mais surtout nous avons des produits de rente qu'on voudrait demander à ce que les entrepreneurs viennent ici les transformer. On aura une valeur ajoutée, on aura du travail pour les jeunes, mais écoutez, pour le problème jeunesse, il y a une deuxième question, c'est le problème de la sécurité. On ne peut pas se passer de la sécurité. Parce qu'on sait que ces jeunes qui ne sont pas formés, qui ne travaillent pas, ils sont à la disposition des rapaces pour les manipuler et faire les opérations anti-terroristes et extrémistes de tous bords. C'est pourquoi, de ce côté-là, c'est un palier qu'on doit prendre compte. Donc, effectivement, nous avons géré le Covid. Il faut prévenir ces catastrophes par le renouvelable, mais aussi avoir de quoi alimenter lorsque ça va venir. Donc, de façon à ce qu'aujourd'hui, mais la deuxième phase, c'est la sécurité, c'est le travail des jeunes. On doit s'y mettre. Pour ne pas être trop long, je vais conclure par vous dire qu'aujourd'hui, l'Afrique, on produit. Donc là, effectivement, on doit stocker ce produit pour pouvoir les vendre. Mais demain, l'Afrique sera un marché qui va consommer. Parce que la population va ajouter. Donc il faut qu'on se prépare pour cette consommation. Une consommation locale qu'on va produire ici et pour cas aussi un import pour consommer. Donc de ce côté-là, on doit se préparer et je pense que nous avons les moyens, nous avons les moyens propres, nous avons les appuis, que ce soit biomultilatéraux, mais surtout encore j'ai un appel à ce qu'on appuie notre frère à destinat pour qu'il ait le maximum, qu'il ait le maximum qu'il faut pour nous aider parce que son aide, il est pratique et concrète et on voit les résultats. Donc là, nous avons beaucoup de partenaires, effectivement, la Belgique, que ce soit la FMI, la Banque mondiale, l'Union européenne nous aide, mais quand même l'Afrique, comme la BAD est à côté de nous, c'est beaucoup plus facile de travailler, la preuve est là. Et c'est pourquoi, encore une fois, merci, M. Adesina. Nous sommes avec vous et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, President Azali Assoumani, again for the endorsement. The investor pitch there, tremendous potential in food and renewable energy. We'll come next to our next panelist, and that will be His Excellency Felipe Jacinto Inyusi of Mozambique. Your country also, like many others, is dealing with quite a number of challenges, but also the G20 has put in place a common framework to help countries address their debt situation. Mr. President, what is your country doing to address Mozambique's debt challenges in the light of some of the challenges that we're dealing with on a continental basis and globally?
Thank you, moderator. You know, in African Union, you are speaking in Portuguese, in English, French, Arabic. Allow me to speak in Portuguese now. Bom, a pergunta foi bem introduzida. Os grandes desafios do meu país, que é Moçambique, não só a dívida, porque a dívida é um desafio comum de todo o mundo, de toda a África. Mas temos desafios como que os que me antecederam falaram sobre mudanças climáticas. Só para vos recordar que nos últimos 20 anos, o maior ciclone em África foi em Moçambique, que se chama Idai, onde todos viveram e destruiu o meu país, no centro do país. Tivemos o desafio da Covid-19, que retardou o desenvolvimento. Agora estamos com o desafio do terrorismo, que está a destruir uma parte do meu país, que é um conflito, que é um desafio enorme. Mas também temos a questão da transição de energia, que parecendo que é pequeno, mas é um problema que pode, sobremaneira, não ser bem tratado, dificultar o crescimento dos países, sobretudo os países em desenvolvimento, com novos horizontes, novas esperanças. Não quis falar aqui dos desafios resultantes da guerra da Ucrânia com a Rússia, mas concretamente o que está a falar sobre as dívidas. Primeiro, a dívida, a melhor forma de combater a dívida é não contrair muitas dívidas, porque não é possível viver sem dívidas, porque não conheço nenhum país no mundo que não tenha isso. Mas o melhor elemento, como estou a dizer, é não contrair muitas dívidas e contrair dívidas corretamente, se for necessário, de uma forma racional. E quando que um país não contrai muitas dívidas? Não contrai muitas dívidas quando aumenta a sua produção, quando aumenta as suas exportações e importa menos. Não contrai dívidas quando tem a disciplina financeira. Tanto tem que haver maior transparência, mas também os processos fiscais, a macroeconomia como é gerida por si só. Esse vai ditar com que as dívidas não sejam contraídas de forma irracional. Portanto, nós embarcamos nessa batalha, ficamos agora num bom tempo onde vivemos a nossa custa, e isso, a solução foi sempre mais produção e, sobretudo, naquelas áreas que são tradicionais para Moçambique, que é a agricultura, que é a pesca e também os transportes. Nós temos os corredores enormes de grande impacto a nível regional da SADC, a partir dos seus portos, as ferrovias e as estradas. Então é preciso aumentar também, ou capacitar e qualificar essas infraestruturas. Boas estradas, boas linhas férreas, bons portos, e isso por si só faz com que o país tenha mais proveitos, tenha mais receitas do que os consumos e reduz a dívida. Portanto, neste momento, dependendo da sua pergunta, como foi muito direta, digo a disciplina financeira, mais produção e também incentivos para as áreas produtivas, neste caso o setor privado. Nós estamos a influenciar muito para que os momentos da produção no setor privado sejam enormes, porque estes investimentos por si só vão ajudar para que não se contraia muitas dívidas. Portanto, a pergunta foi tão simples e direta, e também quero responder. A minha especialidade, eu sou engenheiro, não se dá muitas voltas, vai direto à resposta. Obrigado.
Thank you very much, President Nyusi. And even while we talk about that, we want to congratulate you also on the tremendous investments. You've talked about investments and the fiscal discipline. You've put quite a bit of investment into the gas sector, partnering with the African Development Bank and the Africa Investment Forum, and pulled off in a very short period of time what potentially will be one of the largest gas production systems in the world. So congratulations to you and to Mozambique in that regard. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And we're going to come to His Excellency, the Vice President of Côte d'Ivoire, Vice President Kone, representing President Alassane Ouattara. Well, for 57 years, Your Excellency, Côte d'Ivoire has really been an excellent host for the African Development Bank headquarters, and it's been a beautiful, mutually beneficial relationship with more than 70 staff from 70 countries represented at the bank. I understand from many colleagues that even when they go home, they cannot wait to come back home to Abidjan, and that really says a lot about the impact of traditional Ivorian hospitality. So we want to thank you for that and for being the gracious host that you've been for the bank these many years. Just as it was with Rwanda, so it was with Ivory Coast pre-COVID. You had a GDP growth of about 6.4%. Again, that has taken a hit in the last 2 years. What is it that your government is putting in place to help your country recover?
Bien, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le modérateur. Je voudrais, en prenant la parole pour la première fois, que vous me permettiez de remercier le président Akufo-Addo pour l'honneur qu'il nous fait et l'amitié qu'il nous fait de nous recevoir ici au Ghana. Comme il a dit, notre deuxième pays à nous, en tout cas, compte tenu de notre proximité. Je voudrais aussi transmettre les salutations du président Ouattara, que je représente ici. Il aurait bien voulu être là, mais il n'a pas pu le faire, et je pense en principe que ces salutations seront transmises à chacun des membres qui participent. Alors, vous avez posé deux questions en une. Premièrement, en ce qui concerne la BAD, qui est en Côte d'Ivoire, c'est une question sur laquelle je ne peux pas passer. Parce que si je passe, mon frère Adesina va estimer que je n'ai pas apprécié le fait qu'il soit à la BAD et qu'il fasse ce qu'il fait. C'est vrai que, vous l'avez dit tout à l'heure, la Côte d'Ivoire a toujours été une terre hospitalière et elle est heureuse d'avoir accueilli la BAD. Je le dis parce que cette ouverture est enrichissante pour notre pays et c'est quelque chose auquel le président Ouattara tient particulièrement parce qu'il n'y a que de richesse que d'hommes, comme on le dit. Et si en plus, il se trouve que cette institution, dans son rôle et avec les besoins que la Côte d'Ivoire a pu exprimer, c'est quand même entre 2012 et 2019 près de 1700 milliards d'unités de compte que la BAD a prêté à la Côte d'Ivoire et cela a permis de renforcer de façon importante l'infrastructure dans ce pays. Je ne donnerai pas de chiffres, mais seulement des images. Si vous passez aujourd'hui en Côte d'Ivoire et que vous circulez la nuit, vous verrez que pratiquement tous les villages et tous les hameaux sont éclairés. Même parfois quand il n'y a pas un monde extraordinaire. Et ça, c'est important. Si vous passez et que vous voyez le système d'adduction d'eau, l'eau courante coule un peu partout. Je crois que c'est des investissements sociaux très importants que le pays a pu faire avec l'aide de la BAD. Je terminerai par le programme social du président qu'il a soutenu et qui aujourd'hui fait la fierté de beaucoup d'Ivoiriens. Merci, Monsieur le Président, pour cela.
Visiwani umekuwa ukitazama majadiliano ama mazungumzo mbele ya meza ya duara ya viongozi mbalimbali wa kitaifa wa Afrika waliohudhuria mkutano mkuu wa Benki ya Maendeleo ya Afrika, na nilizungumza sasa ni makamu wa rais wa Ivory Coast Temokomele Tikone. Miongoni mwa viongozi mbalimbali, Rais Samia Suluhu Hassan ameshalihutubia jukwaa hili la mkutano huo tayari, na mazungumzo yanayoendelea sasa na Akufo-Addo, rais mwenyeji, naye amekwisha zungumza. Rais Azali Assoumani amezungumza kwa njia ya mtandao kutoka Komoro na viongozi wengine walioshiriki na matangazo haya sasa.